Surprise! It's me again. I know that I told you I'd be around, but who knew I'd be back this soon? I am back to teach one last Sunday for you guys, and we're going to talk about Jesus feeding the 5,000, which I'm really excited about. This is an awesome story. So before we dive in, I just want to talk about a couple things. Remember, I am not going anywhere. I can still be around. I can still come to your house for dinner. We can still Zoom if you want to. I still want to be in your family and in your life. And I'm definitely still going to be in your church, even though we're not meeting in person right now. Another thing is I'm super excited to meet this week with the person who's going to be your new teacher. So buckle up and get ready for that. It's going to be awesome, guys. So without further ado, let's dive in. So this Sunday, we're talking about Jesus feeding the 5,000. And again, we're in, I think these are called the parables of the kingdom in Matthew. And so we're going to talk about this story. So before we talk about it, I'm going to read it to you. Now, when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there to a boat, to a deserted place by himself. When the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns. He went ashore and saw a great crowd. He had compassion for them and cured their sick. When it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now late. Send the crowds away so that they may go into the villages and buy food for themselves." But Jesus said to them, "They need not go away. You give them something to eat." The disciples replied, "We have nothing to eat here but 5 loaves and 2 fish." And he said, "Bring them here to me." And then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all ate and were filled. And they took up what was left over of the broken pieces, and there were 12 baskets full. And those who ate were about 5,000, besides women and children. What a cool story. So Jesus was having some alone time, but the crowds wouldn't leave him alone. And so he sat on a hill with them, and the disciples said, "Send them home, Jesus." And Jesus said, "No, they're hungry. They need something to eat." And all they could find were 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And Jesus blessed them. And guess what? There was enough bread and enough fish to feed 5,000 men. And back then, they would count people, counting the men, and then, every man would probably have a wife and some children. And so there were probably 10 or 15 or 20,000 people there. That is a lot of people, okay? And the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, after they were blessed by God, they turned into something that could feed a crowd of thousands. So what does this old story mean for us? Well, I think it means that when we give God the little that we have, God can bless it and do big things in our lives. There's a verse that says God will do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. But in order for that to happen, we've got to give the little that we have to God. So my question for you this week is, when have you seen something go from something small and God used it for something huge? Also, what can you give to God that God can bless and turn into something great? I'm excited to hear your answers to these questions. Talk over them with your family, with your parents, grandparents, siblings. And I'm going to be thinking about this too. What can I give to God that God will bless and do a big thing with? I love you all, and I miss you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.